It was an ordinary summer afternoon at the Farage Community Pool, until everything shifted. A white woman confronted a black teenager at the entrance, questioning his right to be there. What began as a simple exchange quickly escalated, drawing curious glances from nearby poolgoers. As voices rose and tension thickened, the situation resembled something out of a courtroom standoff. Then, the unexpected happened. A sleek black sedan pulled up outside the pool, its polished exterior reflecting the bright sun. The crowd's murmurs quieted as all eyes turned toward the vehicle. When the door opened, the person who stepped out left, everyone speechless. What followed would not only reshape the course of that afternoon, but also challenge deeply held perceptions in ways no one could have foreseen. Stay with us to witness how this encounter unfolds, delivering a powerful message you won't forget. If this story resonates with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more impactful content. Marcus Hayes was 14 years old, brimming with quiet confidence and a kind, approachable nature. Respectful, intelligent, and naturally athletic, Marcus had a way of drawing people in. He and his mother, Governor Rachel Hayes, a trailblazing leader known for her integrity and commitment to justice, had recently moved into the Farage neighborhood. For Marcus, the move signified more than just relocating. It was a chance to embrace the joys of summer, make new friends, and carve out his place in the community. That afternoon, Marcus approached the pool, swim bag slung over his shoulder, eager to dive into the refreshing water. He wasn't just excited about swimming, he was ready to enjoy the simple pleasures of being a teenager in a new neighborhood. But his peaceful plans were about to be interrupted. Seated near the entrance was Evelyn Whitaker, a woman in her mid-50s with a watchful gaze and a reputation that preceded her. To some, Evelyn was the neighborhood guardian, a fixture who always kept a close eye on the pool and park. To others, she was overly critical, quick to judge anyone who didn't fit her narrow vision of who belonged. When Evelyn spotted Marcus approaching the gate, her posture stiffened. She didn't recognize him. And for Evelyn, that was reason enough to intervene. The pool area buzzed with the sounds of summer. Children splashed and laughed in the water, parents reclined on lounge chairs, and lifeguards sat lazily at their posts, distracted by their phones. At first, the exchange between Evelyn and Marcus was subtle, hardly noticeable amidst the hum of activity. But as Evelyn's questions became sharper, the atmosphere began to shift. A few bystanders glanced over, their curiosity piqued. Still, no one stepped forward. What initially appeared to be a minor misunderstanding was evolving into something more significant, something no one present could continue to ignore. Marcus, calm and composed, met Evelyn's gaze steadily. He wasn't rude or defiant, but he refused to be intimidated. Evelyn, unwavering and determined, continued pressing him, confident in her self-appointed authority. What started as a normal summer afternoon was swiftly becoming a test for everyone present. A test of values, courage, and the community's true character. Evelyn Whitaker's eyes narrowed, suspicion etched deeply into her furrowed brow. "I've lived in this neighborhood for over 20 years, she said, folding her arms tightly. "I've never seen you before." Marcus Hayes hesitated, swallowing the frustration rising in his chest. He met Evelyn's gaze, keeping his tone respectful. "We live just down the street, ma'am. I'm just here to swim." But Evelyn wasn't convinced. Her stance stiffened further, her tone laced with cold authority. "I don't think so. This pool is for residents only. Do you have any ID or proof you belong here?" Marcus blinked, caught off guard. "I didn't bring anything. I just came to swim after school. I live on Willowbrook Lane, if that helps." Evelyn's expression hardened. "Willowbrook Lane? Well, if that's true, then proving it shouldn't be an issue. Otherwise, I'll have to ask you to leave." Around them, the vibrant hum of summer activity began to quiet. Parents lounging by the pool exchanged uncertain glances. Laughter from the shallow end faded as a ripple of awareness spread through the crowd. The lifeguard, still perched high above, shifted uncomfortably, stealing glances at the unfolding confrontation, but making no move to intervene. Marcus felt the weight of eyes settling on him, but he kept his posture relaxed. "Ma'am, I'm not sure what else to tell you. This is my neighborhood too. I just want to swim like everyone else." Evelyn's voice grew sharper, rising in volume and intensity. "If you live here, prove it. Otherwise, you don't belong." This is private property, and we don't allow just anyone to walk in off the street. Marcus's eyes flicked to the lifeguard, silently pleading for backup. But the lifeguard remained frozen, unsure whether to step in or let things play out. Marcus looked to the crowd next. Parents, teenagers, even a few regulars he had seen around the neighborhood. No one spoke. The silence from those around him felt louder than Evelyn's words. Her stare bore down on him, an unspoken message lingering beneath her questions. Marcus felt his pulse quicken, though he didn't let it show. "I'm not trying to cause trouble, ma'am," he said steadily, his voice calm but firm. "I'm just here to enjoy the pool." Evelyn dismissed his words with a sharp wave of her hand. "Then show me you belong here, otherwise I'll get the management involved, or worse." A soft murmur rippled through the small crowd that had quietly gathered nearby. Parents shifted uncomfortably in their seats. A few whispered to one another, their faces flickering between curiosity and discomfort. Some nodded slightly, as if silently agreeing with Evelyn's persistence. Others, however, wore expressions of quiet unease. Still, no one stepped forward. The exchange had become more than just a disagreement at the pool gate. Marcus now stood alone, face to face with Evelyn's relentless questioning. Though he maintained his composure, the gravity of the situation pressed down on him. Evelyn's voice pierced the air once more. "If you can't prove you live here, I'll have to call security." Marcus took a deep breath, his eyes scanning the crowd once again. No one met his gaze. Even the lifeguard, still watching from above, appeared hesitant to speak up. "I don't know what else to say," Marcus replied quietly. "My mom and I moved here recently. I live a few streets over." Evelyn didn't budge. Her voice, now sharp and cutting, carried an air of finality. "Enough. If you can't prove you live here, I'm calling security." The murmurs around them grew louder as Evelyn pulled out her phone. A few people shifted uneasily, some appearing to agree with her, while others simply looked away, avoiding Marcus's gaze. Marcus clenched his fists, his heart pounding. He knew better than to raise his voice or let his frustration show. "You don't have to call anyone," Marcus said firmly. "I'm not trespassing, I live here." But Evelyn had already dialed. She spoke into the phone, her tone exaggerated. "Hello, yes, this is Evelyn Whitaker at Farridge Pool. There's someone here who doesn't belong. I need security down here immediately." The words hit Marcus like a punch to the stomach. Unauthorized person. He scanned the crowd one last time, hoping someone would step in. But the bystanders stayed silent, their gazes fixed anywhere but on him. The lifeguard, still seated, shifted awkwardly but said nothing. Minutes later, 2 security guards appeared at the gate, walking briskly toward Evelyn and Marcus. Their authoritative presence sent a hush through the crowd. One of the guards, tall and serious, carried a clipboard as he approached. "We received a call about a trespasser," the guard said, looking directly at Marcus. "Can you tell us your name and why you're here?" Marcus stood his ground, his voice steady. "My name's Marcus Hayes. I live here. I'm just trying to swim." The guard arched an eyebrow and glanced at Evelyn, who stood nearby with her arms crossed, a smug expression plastered on her face. "Do you have any proof of residency?" the guard asked. "An ID or pool pass?" Marcus shook his head. "I didn't bring anything. I just came after school. I live on Willowbrook Lane." The second guard, shorter and stockier, stepped forward. "Without proof, we can't confirm that you're a resident." Marcus's voice tightened. "I can call my mom." But Evelyn cut him off. "Oh, please. If he lived here, he wouldn't have this much trouble proving it." Marcus's fingers hovered over his phone, his hands trembling as he quickly began typing out a message to his mother. The taller security guard, clipboard in hand, took a step toward Marcus, his gaze stern. "We received a report about someone trespassing," he said, his tone firm. "Can you tell us your name and why you're here?" Marcus inhaled slowly, steadying himself. "My name is Marcus Hayes. I live here. I'm just trying to swim." The guard arched an eyebrow, casting a brief glance at Evelyn Whitaker, who stood nearby with her arms folded and a self-satisfied smirk tugging at the corners of her mouth. "Do you have any proof of residency? An ID or pool pass?" Marcus shook his head. "I didn't bring anything. I came straight after school. I live on Willowbrook Lane with my mom." The shorter, stockier guard chimed in, his tone blunt but not unkind. "Without proof, we can't confirm that you belong here. Do you have someone who can verify it?" Marcus's face brightened with hope. I can call my mom. She's at work right now, but... Before he could finish, Evelyn interrupted with a dismissive wave. Oh, please, she scoffed, her voice dripping with condescension. If he lived here, he wouldn't have such a hard time proving it. The taller guard hesitated, glancing between Evelyn and Marcus. The unease in Marcus's eyes was hard to miss, but Evelyn's unwavering certainty seemed to hold more weight in the moment. Marcus felt the heat of dozens of eyes settling on him. Whispers stirred among the poolside crowd, their hushed tones barely masking the judgment behind them. Marcus gripped his phone, his fingers trembling slightly as he began typing a quick message to his mom. His text was simple, but heavy with unspoken meaning. Mom, can you come to the pool? There's a problem. As the seconds ticked by, they felt like hours. Evelyn's gaze never left Marcus, her arms still crossed as if daring him to find a way out of the situation. The guards continued their line of questioning, though their tones softened slightly, less accusatory but still pressing. Without proof, the taller guard said carefully, we may have to ask you to leave until we can clear this up. Marcus opened his mouth to respond, but before he could, the low hum of an approaching engine caught everyone's attention. A sleek black luxury car glided to a stop just outside the pool gates, its polished surface reflecting the sun's glare. The door clicked open with precision, and the soft sound echoed across the hushed pool deck. Marcus froze, his phone still in his hand. He recognized that car instantly. So did Evelyn. Every head turned toward the gate as Governor Rachel Hayes stepped out. Dressed sharply in her work attire, her heels clicked rhythmically against the pavement as she approached with an air of quiet authority that seemed to shift the atmosphere entirely. The lifeguard straightened abruptly, suddenly far more attentive. Parents whispered in hushed tones, wide-eyed at the unexpected arrival. Even Evelyn, who had moments ago appeared so sure of herself, shifted uneasily. The smug expression that once rested on her face now faltered. Governor Hayes walked up to the pool deck, her eyes briefly scanning the scene before resting on her son. She placed a steady, reassuring hand on Marcus's shoulder, her presence instantly dissolving the knot of tension that had tightened in his chest. Her gaze lifted, sharp and unwavering, as she addressed the gathered crowd. Can someone explain to me, she said calmly, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade, why my son is being treated like a trespasser at his own community pool? Evelyn's face paled. Her lips parted, but the words tumbled out unevenly. I didn't realize he was your son. I was just trying to ensure everything was in order here. Governor Hayes arched a brow, unimpressed. In order? She repeated coolly. And what exactly gave you the authority to interrogate a teenager at a public pool? Her gaze drifted to the security guards, whose posture stiffened under the weight of her words. My son lives in this neighborhood, she continued, her voice calm but firm. He has every right to be here, without being harassed. The taller security guard cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable. Governor Hayes, we were just responding to a call. There was concern about... Her attention snapped to the guards, her tone sharpening. Concern about what, exactly? She interrupted. A teenager swimming in his community pool? Did either of you ask for his side of the story, or did you simply assume the call justified your actions? The guards exchanged uneasy glances, but neither responded. Evelyn, now visibly rattled, tried once more to salvage the situation. I wasn't trying to cause trouble, she stammered. I didn't recognize him, and I thought... You thought what? Governor Hayes pressed, her voice carrying an edge that left no room for deflection. That because you didn't recognize him, he didn't belong? That his presence needed to be questioned while everyone else's didn't? Evelyn's mouth opened, but no words followed. She glanced around, searching for support in the crowd, but found none. Governor Hayes turned back to the guards, her expression unyielding. This pool follows the same laws as anywhere else in this state. That includes laws against discrimination. Marcus is a resident, and I expect him to be treated as such. Is that clear? Both guards nodded quickly. Yes, ma'am. Understood, the taller one replied. Governor Hayes's gaze softened slightly as she glanced down at Marcus. She squeezed his shoulder gently. You okay? She asked. Marcus nodded, his relief visible. Yeah, Mom. I'm fine now. Governor Hayes's sharp gaze didn't waver as she addressed the security guards, her voice calm but firm. And you thought the call alone justified your actions? The guards exchanged uneasy glances, but neither offered an answer. Evelyn Whitaker, standing a few feet away, nervously shifted her weight from one foot to the other. Her confident demeanor had all but evaporated. "I didn't mean any harm," she blurted, the words tumbling out hurriedly. "I just didn't recognize him, and I thought—" "You thought what?" Governor Hayes interrupted, her tone carrying a razor-sharp edge. "That he didn't belong here because you didn't recognize him? That his presence required proof, while everyone else's didn't?" She swept her hand toward the pool, gesturing to the crowd that had fallen into a watchful silence. Many of the onlookers quickly averted their eyes. Evelyn's mouth opened, but no words followed. Governor Hayes turned back to the guards, her expression unwavering. "I'd like to remind you that this pool operates under the same laws as the rest of the state. That includes laws against discrimination." Her voice dropped slightly, each word landing with weight. "My son lives here. He is entitled to the same respect and freedom to enjoy this facility as anyone else. Is that understood?" Both guards nodded quickly, their heads bobbing in unison. "Yes, ma'am. Of course, Governor," the taller one muttered. Satisfied, Governor Hayes shifted her attention to Evelyn, her expression softening slightly, though her tone remained steady. "And as for you, Miss Whitaker, I suggest you take some time to reflect on why you felt the need to escalate this situation the way you did." Evelyn's face reddened and she gripped her purse tightly, her knuckles turning white. "Because from where I'm standing," Governor Hayes continued, "this feels a lot less like genuine concern, and a lot more like bias." Evelyn looked like she wished the ground would swallow her whole. Her eyes flickered nervously around the pool, but no one came to her defense. She nodded stiffly, offering no further argument. Governor Hayes placed a gentle hand on Marcus's shoulder, her tone softening as she leaned down slightly to meet his eyes. "You okay?" Marcus let out a small breath, the tension visibly leaving his face. "Yeah, Mom. I'm fine now." The weight of the moment lingered as Governor Hayes and Marcus began to step away. The crowd, which had remained frozen in silence, began stirring with quiet murmurs. The quiet was broken by the hesitant voice of the taller security guard. "Governor Hayes," he called after her, stepping forward. His face carried genuine regret. "I just wanted to apologize. We handled this poorly. I'm sorry for the distress we caused your son. We should have listened and approached this differently." The shorter guard gave a nod of agreement, his voice subdued. "We'll revisit our protocols to make sure something like this doesn't happen again." Governor Hayes paused, turning back to them with a measured gaze. "Apologies are a start," she said, her tone steady but constructive. "But what matters more is action. Use this as an opportunity to reflect and improve, not just today, but every day." The guards nodded again, clearly humbled. From the far side of the pool, a parent slowly rose from their lounge chair. Their voice, edged with guilt, cut through the lingering quiet. "I should have stepped in earlier," they admitted. "I saw what was happening. But I didn't say anything. I'm sorry, Marcus." Another bystander chimed in, shaking their head. "This isn't right. No one should have to deal with that just to enjoy a day at the pool." The murmurs of agreement grew louder, rippling through the poolside crowd. Quiet disapproval shifted into a collective acknowledgement of wrongdoing. Evelyn, still lingering near the gate, felt the shift in the atmosphere. Her face flushed as she hurriedly gathered her belongings, avoiding the eyes of those around her. The disapproving stares followed her as she left the pool area, her shoulders slumped. One by one, the pool-goers reclaimed their voices, no longer content to remain silent. From his perch, the lifeguard, who had remained passive throughout the ordeal, slowly climbed down from his chair. He approached Marcus and Governor Hayes, his face shadowed with regret. "I should have had said something sooner," the lifeguard admitted, his voice heavy. "I froze. I thought it wasn't my place, but that's not an excuse." He shook his head, frustration with himself clear. "I promise this won't happen again. I'll report this and push for better training, for myself and the rest of the staff." Governor Hayes studied him for a moment before offering a small nod. "Acknowledging the issue is the first step. But remember, this isn't just about policies." She looked around at the crowd, ensuring her words reached everyone. "It's about people. It's about recognizing our own biases and having the courage to speak up when we witness something wrong." Marcus stood quietly beside his mother, pride swelling in his chest as he listened. Governor Hayes's gaze swept over the pool-goers. This is a teachable moment for all of us. Discrimination, whether loud or subtle, has no place here. It's not enough to simply avoid causing harm. We have to actively stand against injustice when we see it. A few quiet claps echoed from the side of the pool, slowly building as more bystanders joined in. Marcus glanced around, surprised by the shift in energy. He stood a little taller, no longer feeling like an outsider. Governor Hayes's voice held the crowd captive, her calm authority leaving no room for doubt. "This moment isn't just about my son," she said, addressing the pool-goers who had silently observed the confrontation. "It's about all of us. Discrimination, whether loud or quiet, obvious or subtle, has no place here. Not in this community. Not anywhere." Her eyes swept across the bystanders, her gaze soft yet firm. "It's not enough to avoid causing harm. We each have a responsibility to stand against injustice when we see it. Silence allows these situations to happen. Action prevents them." The crowd, many now visibly affected, nodded in quiet agreement. A few began to clap, softly at first. The applause grew, rippling through the group, until it became a collective acknowledgement, a small but meaningful sign of solidarity. Marcus stood silently beside his mother, the weight that had pressed on his shoulders just moments ago now replaced by a quiet pride. He wasn't just relieved, it felt like something had shifted. The embarrassment and frustration had been met with something stronger: recognition, understanding, and most importantly, support. As Marcus and Governor Hayes walked toward the pool exit, the energy lingered behind them, hanging in the air like the sun's fading warmth. The afternoon hadn't unfolded the way Marcus had imagined, but it left him with something unexpected: a sense of belonging. The late afternoon sun stretched long shadows across the pavement as Marcus and his mother walked side by side, their steps steady and unhurried. Marcus's head was held high, no longer burdened by the weight of the confrontation. His mother's steady presence beside him spoke volumes, reminding him without words that he was seen, heard, and above all, protected. As they reached the car, Governor Hayes paused, placing a gentle hand on Marcus's shoulder. She turned to him, her eyes soft but proud. "You handled yourself with dignity today," she said quietly, the corners of her lips lifting in a small smile. "I'm proud of you." Marcus glanced at her, his own smile beginning to form. "Thanks, Mom. I couldn't have done it without you." For a moment they stood in silence, the weight of the day slowly dissolving into the warm air around them. Marcus opened the car door and climbed inside, pausing briefly to look back at the pool. The place that had, for a fleeting moment, felt hostile and unwelcome, now looked different. It wasn't just a pool anymore. It was a reminder, a symbol of his resilience, his mother's strength, and the small but powerful shifts that could happen when people chose to confront injustice. As the car pulled away, Marcus felt a sense of closure settle over him. The message was clear. Even in difficult moments, there is strength in unity, and the fight for fairness is never fought alone. For those watching from the sidelines, the day's events left an imprint, a reminder that standing against injustice starts with speaking up, even when the easiest thing to do is remain silent. If this story moved you, let it inspire others. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories that highlight courage, compassion, and the importance of standing for what's right.